Your energy report. What is an energy report? It's information for you about what's going on in consciousness today. What's going on in consciousness for a long time is the Great Awakening that, Donald Trump adopted as his slogan. But the Great Awakening is also a great change in what was known in this planetary realm. In the past, we had a lot of what we call low vibrational entities. These are beings that are not human but can possess humans. And as we rise to higher dimensions, these dark entities, we call them dark because they're evil. These dark entities are being cleared from the earth. Who's doing it? Pretty much the whole of all of us is doing it. And these things keep surfacing. Some of these things are trivial. In other words, like a pain that you feel transiently in your body. Other of these things are intelligences, highly toxic entities that come to possess humans and cause great trouble to them. And these are part of being in a third dimensional reality. As we move to higher dimensions, these ones are interested in keeping themselves around. They don't want us to go to the fifth dimension, which is, as you will recall, the Age of Aquarius song by the Fifth Dimension, or Imagine by John Lennon. These entities think that these songs are an invitation for them to continue to haunt people. It's not the case. But they were going to do their best to stick around. So the Great Awakening is, first of all, becoming aware that, as I've said in many of my videos, we live in consciousness. And the dimension we call third dimension is a consciousness that is pretty much separate from a lot of information. We are separated from truth. And we live pretty much in a world where people tell you things and you're always wondering, are they lying to me? Is this useful? What's their private agenda? In the fifth dimension, we don't have these issues. In the fifth dimension, you don't have people with individual egos. An ego is where these agendas lie. It's a great separate consciousness from one another. These entities, these negative entities, always think that when I say this, that I mean we're going to have a unity consciousness and they're going to get to haunt everyone. This is incorrect. In unity consciousness, what do we have? Where do personalities lie? What happens? That is interesting for them because they're always looking for a way to chisel in, and they don't belong because they don't have any worldly remarks other than, I'm here. What are you going to do about it? This is really hard for the people who are haunted by these beasties because they really can't be removed other than genuinely forcing them to go. So, how are you going to force entities to leave you? Some people do QHHT, hypnotic regressions. And from some of the views that I've seen of these people when they film themselves for YouTube, they find these entities and they say, it's time for you to go. And the entity leaves. But when you have entities that refuse to go, then we have to force them to go and we have to kill them. So killing entities is a new subject, and it's a subject that we're all going to have to share because none of us really know all the information. These evil entities can be thousands of years old, and they've had thousands of people that they've haunted. So they're very intelligent. And they're also listening because there are entities haunting this one. And if there's a voice in your head, that is an entity. You are going to say, well, that's my voice. No. If you're hearing a voice in your mind, that is not you. It is an entity. And we are, for a very long time, haunted by these things. These things always come because humans don't know what to do to protect themselves. Some people say use white light or call on angels. I'm sorry. Angels that come to you are these entities. You can't call on them to help you because they are the dark entities. Are there anything that are of light? No. No, they are great pretenders, and they have been around with humanity for a long time. Somewhere in this book that I'm reading, they say, well, what's the difference between an entity and a spirit guide? And this author thinks that the spirit guides are somehow in a different category. No, they're not. They are all, in essence, spirits, and they are all looking to use you. It's not going to be going to a Catholic church to get rid of these entities because the Catholic Church is infested with these entities. The whole planet is infested with discarnate spirits. And these ones, generally speaking, under the weather for you. In other words, once you've recognized that you are being haunted by these things, you want to barf. Can plant medicines get rid of these entities? Could be. But then again, some of these entities have been around for so long, they've figured out these plant medicines. Interesting. Please stay tuned because I'm going to keep talking about these entities. And please share this video with all your friends because people who like horror movies are infested by entities. This is the book I'm currently looking at, Entity Possession. The guy says that he's an MD, Samuel Sagan. So far, I haven't seen any evidence that the man is actually a doctor. But, I just began the book. And time will tell if there's anything really of use in here. Should you go for QHHT regression hypnotic therapy? Should you take the course? You see how my body moves? That's an entity. That's why I also call them demonic attack. They don't respect you. Now, if you follow some of the new information that comes from, various commentators on YouTube, for example, they talk about what we're supposed to have, which is personal sovereignty over ourselves. But these dark service to self beings don't respect your personal sovereignty. And as humans on this planet, we don't even understand personal sovereignty because we are born into a planet of control grids. Everywhere you have gone in your life, there have been humans who want to control you, and you see them in the form of police officers, government statutes, legislations, regulations. In other words, this world has many issues with people having freedom to be themselves. And we see it right now as the world is shut down by these control freaks. Some people will say, well, there's a virus. There's no virus. What we have is control freaks. Control, control, control. And they're laughing because it's very easy for them to get you to buy in, because you've got parasites in your mind that remember all of these stories about what causes diseases. Science says. I hear so many people say, science says. All of these things that science says have to do with physicality, physical reality. There's nothing physical here. This thing that we call physical is simply something in consciousness. You can go to your quantum theory, your double slit experiments, the observer effects. It all points you. Does it prove it? Some people say it proves it. It doesn't prove it. You need to go back to basic science. You come with the null hypothesis. It's basically statistically looking at the results of your experiment. Science doesn't say. No, it doesn't. It might even give you scientific laws that you can use as a formula to make a calculation, but it's not truth. It's a tool. What's the difference? In our world, we only have these tools. We don't have 100% truth because we are living in a very low vibrational planet. They call it 3D. But if you go into consciousness research, which I always do, we know from the work of Dr. David R. Hawkins, that the collective consciousness of humanity up until 1987 was negative as a whole. What happened in 1987? Well, an astrologer will say you had the harmonic concordance, which was some astrological thing. But what really happened was people were aware of the astrology that, oh, there's going to be this lineup of the stars and the planets and the sun, and we're going to have a group meditation. And that's what they did. And in fact, what was the cause of raising the consciousness on the planet was the group meditation, and it was an intention to raise the consciousness out of toxic negativity. So, the takeaway from this is, if you want to raise consciousness and get rid of negative entities, meditate. And if you can get a group together, all the better. I'm Harry Weaver. Please subscribe and share.